Okay, so you know how much we love to dive deep, right? And this time, you've given us like a treasure chest of wisdom to unpack. We're talking about Who Will Cry When You Die by Robin Sharma.
Yeah, it's not just your typical self-help book. This is deep stuff.
Right, it's about more than just feeling good for a day or two. It's about a lifetime of impact.
Yeah.
And, we get it. You're busy. You don't have time to wade through every single page. So today, we're distilling it down. Just the pure essence of what makes this book so powerful. Think of this as your VIP pass to the core insights.
Absolutely, the Cliff's Notes version.
Exactly. So before we even crack open the book, let's talk about that title. Who Will Cry When You Die?
It's heavy, right?
It really makes you think. It's like Sharma is grabbing us by the shoulders and saying, hey, wake up. What kind of life are you building? Are you making a dent in the universe? He doesn't want us to waste our potential. He doesn't want us to have regrets. It reminds me of that George Bernard Shaw quote about shaking on his deathbed that he had been the person he could have been. So with all these life lessons packed in here, where do we even start?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is about purpose, about finding your calling and living with intention.
Yeah, Sharma starts off strong with discover your calling. He believes everyone has unique talents meant for something special. But it doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job and becoming a monk, does it?
Not at all. He talks about bringing your whole self to your work, no matter what you do.
Right. Focus on your strengths, what you're naturally good at. Don't try to be someone you're not.
Exactly. Be authentic. And it all ties back to that Gandhi quote, be the change. It's about taking control, not letting life just happen to you.
Totally. And that takes us to practice tough love. It sounds kind of harsh, but it's really about self-discipline.
Yeah, he has this image of a leaf floating down a stream, just going wherever the current takes it. Without self-discipline, we're like that leaf. We're not in control.
We're not making conscious choices based on our values. We're just reacting. But with self-discipline, we become the captains of our own ships. We decide where we're going.
Right, and he backs this up with quotes from all sorts of brilliant minds. Like E.M. Gray said, successful people do what failures won't do, even if it's not always fun.
And Thomas Huxley talked about the ability to make yourself do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. It's the mark of a truly educated person.
And Aristotle said we become virtuous by practicing virtue. So if we want to be self-disciplined, we have to practice self-discipline.
Like working out a muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. So we've got this foundation of purpose and self-discipline. Where do we go from there?
Well, Sharma says we need to start your day well.
That's where the Platinum 30 comes in. The first 30 minutes of your day are crucial. What you do in that time sets the tone for everything that follows.
He compares it to base camp for Everest climbers. Before they even attempt the summit, they need a solid foundation, a place to rest, recover, and plan their strategy.
So the Platinum 30 is like our personal base camp. It's a time for self-care, for reflection, for setting our intentions for the day.
And one thing he highly recommends doing during that time is reading something inspiring.
Yeah, feed your mind with positive, uplifting material. It's like a mental breakfast of champions.
So we're starting the day with purpose, with discipline, with a positive mindset. What's next on Sharma's roadmap?
He dives into the importance of managing your mind and maintaining a healthy perspective. He starts with maintain your perspective. It's about consciously choosing how you view things, especially when things get tough.
And to really shake things up, he drops this mind-blowing quote from Stephen Hawking. Remember that one about how we're just a tiny planet orbiting an ordinary star in one of billions of galaxies?
Talk about putting things in perspective. Suddenly, our daily worries seem so insignificant.
Right. It's like, oh, you're stressed about traffic. Well, in the grand scheme of the universe.
Exactly. And he reminds us that our time here is limited. Our lives are just blips on the radar of eternity.
So we need to appreciate the journey, not just the destination. And that leads us to keep a journal. It sounds simple, but he really emphasizes its power.
It's not just about keeping a diary and writing down what you did that day. It's about actively analyzing and evaluating your experiences.
It's about having honest conversations with yourself, digging deep, and figuring out what you learned, what you could have done better, what you're grateful for.
And research shows that it's actually good for your health. Just 15 minutes a day can boost your immune system and reduce stress. He even quotes someone saying, if your life is worth thinking about, it's worth writing about.
That's so true. But what about when our minds are racing with worries? How do we quiet that inner chatter?
That's where schedule worry breaks comes in. Instead of letting worry consume your entire day, You set aside specific times to worry.
It's like giving worry its own designated space so it doesn't spill over into everything else.
Exactly. And when worries pop up outside of those scheduled breaks, you just jot them down and say, okay, I'll deal with you later.
It's a way to take control of your mental energy. It's brilliant. Then he throws us a curveball with model a child.
I love that one.
Eh.
He tells this story about his son, Colby, who would only eat the soft part of the bread, leaving the crust behind.
And he uses that as a metaphor for life. We all have our crusts, the challenges and difficulties we face, but we can choose to focus on the soft, delicious center.
We can choose to focus on the good, the positive, the things that bring us joy. It's a reminder that we have more control over our experience than we think.
So much of it is about our mindset. And speaking of mindset, he talks about the importance of learn to be silent.
In today's world, we're constantly bombarded with noise and information. We rarely give ourselves the gift of silence.
But silence is essential. It's where we connect with our inner wisdom, where creativity flourishes, where we find peace.
He warns us against being so busy that we forget to stop and refuel.
It's like driving a car without ever stopping for gas. Eventually, you're going to run out.
Exactly. And then he gives us this fun little exercise. Think about your ideal neighborhood.
I love this one. It's about imagining who you would want as your neighbors.
And by choosing those people, whether they're real or fictional, living or dead, we start to reveal our own values.
It's like creating a dream team of admirable qualities.
And those qualities are a reflection of what we aspire to be ourselves.
Then he takes a really interesting approach to challenges with see your troubles as blessings.
It sounds counterintuitive, but he argues that we often learn the most from our struggles.
He quotes Euripides, who said, "There is in the worst of fortune the best chances for a happy change."
So when we face adversity, it's an opportunity for growth, for resilience, for discovering hidden strengths.
And he points out that those who've lived the most fulfilling lives often have the most scars to show for it.
It's about embracing the whole human experience, the ups and the downs. And he actually says that having more failures can mean you're living more fully. It means you're taking risks, you're pushing your boundaries, you're not playing it safe.
He quotes Herodotus, who said something like, "It's better to have tried and failed than to have never tried at all." And then there's Booker T. Washington, who said, "Success is not measured by the position you reach, but by the obstacles you overcome."
Exactly. It's all about the journey, not just the destination.
And on that journey, he encourages us to laugh more.
It seems simple, but it's so important to inject some humor and playfulness into our lives. We take ourselves too seriously sometimes.
We need to lighten up. And then he suggests something pretty radical. Spend a day without your watch.
I love that one. It's about disconnecting from the tyranny of time, from schedules and deadlines.
It's about being fully present in the moment, experiencing life as it unfolds.
He talks about his own experience reading Thoreau in the Woods and coming across that line about wanting to live deliberately.
To suck the marrow out of life.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder to be present, to savor the experience.
So we've covered finding purpose, managing our minds, embracing challenges. Where does he take us next?
Well, he delves into the realm of positive habits and meaningful relationships.
And he starts with a really crucial one. Learn to say no gracefully.
He ties this back to having clear priorities. If you don't know what's truly important to you, you'll end up saying yes to everything and everyone else.
You'll be living someone else's life. And he even quotes himself from his book, Leadership Wisdom from the Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. If your priorities aren't scheduled, other people's will be.
Ouch. But it's true. We need to protect our time and energy for the things that matter most.
Absolutely. And then he suggests we take a weekly sabbatical.
It's about carving out time for rest and rejuvenation.
It's about disconnecting from the daily grind and reconnecting with yourself, your loved ones, your passions.
It's like hitting the reset button.
Exactly. And then he suggests something that might sound a little strange. Talk to yourself.
But it's actually incredibly powerful. He references As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, which basically says that our thoughts create our reality.
So if we're constantly feeding ourselves negative self-talk, guess what?
We're going to create a negative reality. But if we consciously cultivate positive self-talk, we can create a more positive and empowering reality.
It's about becoming aware of our inner dialogue and choosing to speak to ourselves with kindness and encouragement.
Exactly. And then he talks about the importance of practice forgiveness.
And he frames it in a really interesting way. He says it's not just about being kind to others, it's actually a selfish act.
Because holding on to resentment is like carrying a heavy weight on your shoulders.
It drags you down, it saps your energy, it keeps you stuck in the past.
He even quotes Mark Twain, who said something like, "Forgiveness is the fragrance the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it."
It's about liberating yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. And then he suggests a really simple but powerful practice. Write thank you notes.
In today's digital world, we often forget the power of a handwritten note.
But it can make someone's day. It shows them that you appreciate them, that you value their presence in your life.
And it's a great way to cultivate gratitude in your own heart.
Speaking of simple but powerful habits, he also suggests we always carry a book with you.
You never know when you'll have a few minutes to spare waiting in line, riding the bus, whatever. And instead of wasting that time scrolling through your phone, you can be feeding your mind with knowledge and inspiration.
He reminds us that ideas are the currency of success. A single idea from the right book can change your life.
He even quotes Seneca, who said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live."
And Thoreau, who said, "How many a man has dated a new era in his life from the reading of a book?"
It's so true. And then he suggests a practical way to deal with challenges. List your problems.
It's about getting all those worries and anxieties out of your head and onto paper.
He mentions that both Bruce Lee and Winston Churchill used this technique.
It helps you to see things more objectively, to identify patterns, to come up with solutions.
It's like decluttering your mind.
Exactly. And then he shifts gears with a really heartwarming suggestion. See your children as gifts.
He tells the sweet story about a Father's Day card his son Colby made for him.
And it's a reminder to appreciate those precious moments with our loved ones. They grow up so fast.
It's about being present, cherishing the journey.
And speaking of journeys, he also advises us to enjoy the path, not just the reward.
He quotes Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, "The reward of a thing well done is to have done it."
It's about finding joy in the process, in the effort, in the growth.
It's about not getting so caught up in the destination that we miss the beauty of the journey.
Then he shares a fundamental principle for personal development. Remember that awareness precedes change.
You can't fix something if you don't even know it's broken.
He uses his own experience with public speaking as an example. He realized he was uncomfortable with it, and that awareness was the first step towards improving.
It's about being honest with ourselves, identifying our weaknesses, and then seeking ways to grow.
And then he tackles a topic that's always relevant. Master your time.
He points out that we often complain about not having enough time, but then we waste the time we do have.
We scroll through social media, we watch mindless TV, we procrastinate.
He quotes Paul Bowles, who said, "We die with the dying. See, they depart and we go with them. We are born with the dead. See, they return and bring us with them."
It's a reminder that our time is precious. We need to use it wisely.
And that means being intentional about how we spend our days.
Then he talks about the importance of emotional regulation with keep your cool.
He quotes Aristotle, who said that anyone can become angry, that's easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that's not easy.
It's about choosing our responses, not letting our emotions control us.
He suggests techniques like counting to 100 or using the 3-gate test before speaking in anger.
It's about taking a moment to pause and reflect before reacting. And then he introduces a really intriguing concept. Recruit a board of directors.
Now, this isn't about corporate governance. He's talking about seeking out mentors and advisors.
People you admire, people who have experience in areas where you want to grow.
He shares his own experience reaching out to people he admired and how willing they were to help.
It's about surrounding yourself with people who can offer guidance and support.
And he also suggests we build a library of heroic books.
It's about immersing yourself in inspiring literature, filling your mind with wisdom and positive examples.
He even provides a list of recommended authors from ancient philosophers to modern thought leaders.
It's like creating your own personal hall of fame of inspiring figures.
Then he encourages us to develop your talents.
It's about identifying our natural abilities and nurturing them.
And to create balance in our lives, he also suggests we connect with nature.
He talks about the restorative power of spending time outdoors, of appreciating the beauty of the natural world.
He quotes Gandhi, who said, "To forget how to dig the earth and tend the soil is to forget ourselves."
It's about remembering our connection to something larger than ourselves.
And he also suggests we use your commute time more effectively.
Instead of seeing it as wasted time, we can use it for learning and personal growth.
We can listen to audiobooks, podcasts, or just use the time for reflection.
And to create more space for those positive pursuits, he suggests we go on a news fast.
The constant barrage of news can be overwhelming and negativity.
It can drain our energy and distort our perspective.
He suggests taking a break from it, even just for a day or two, and see how it affects your mood and your outlook.
And then we come to the foundation of it all. Get serious about setting goals.
He outlines 3 reasons why it's so effective. First, it provides direction.
Second, it makes us more aware of opportunities.
And third, it commits us to action.
He encourages us to set big, audacious goals.
He quotes David Ogilvy, who said, "Aim out of the ballpark. Aim for the company of immortals."
And then he revisits the theme of practice forgiveness.
This time, he emphasizes its role in improving our overall quality of life.
It's about not letting resentment poison our hearts and minds.
It's about choosing to let go of the past and move forward with peace and freedom.
And he also advises us to drink fresh fruit juice.
He talks about the connection between our diet and our mental clarity.
He suggests minimizing processed foods and opting for fresh, natural options.
And then he emphasizes the importance of create a pure environment.
This is about surrounding ourselves with positivity.
The people we interact with, the books we read, the media we consume, even the physical spaces we inhabit, all have an impact on our thoughts and feelings.
He tells a story about an elderly woman who always kept fresh flowers in her home. It was her way of creating a beautiful and uplifting environment.
And then he suggests we walk in the woods.
It's about reconnecting with nature, finding peace and solitude.
It's a chance to clear our heads and find inspiration.
He also advises us to get a coach.
This is about seeking professional guidance and support.
It's about having someone to help us identify our blind spots, set clear goals, and develop strategies for achieving them,
And then he suggests we take a mini vacation.
even if it's just a mental one.
He talks about the power of visualization, of imagining ourselves in a relaxing and rejuvenating setting.
It's a way to give our minds and bodies a break, even if we can't physically get away.
Then he encourages us to become a volunteer.
He shares a Persian proverb. I cried because I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet.
It's about gaining perspective, realizing how much we have to be grateful for.
He tells the story of a successful businessman who found more fulfillment in volunteering than in his high-powered career.
And he also suggests we find your 6 degrees of separation.
It's about recognizing our interconnectedness with all of humanity.
He talks about his hero list and the concept of the law of attraction.
By focusing on those we admire, we can create pathways to connect with them.
Then he suggests we write a legacy statement.
It's about defining the impact we want to have on the world.
What do we want to be remembered for?
He also advises us to find 3 great friends.
He quotes a philosopher who said that a true friend doubles our joys and halves our sorrows.
He tells a story about his mother finding a new friend later in life and how much joy it brought her.
It's a reminder that strong friendships are essential for a happy and fulfilling life.
And then he recommends we read The Artist's Way.
It's about unlocking our creative potential.
He emphasizes that we're all creative beings, not just those who paint or write or make music.
And then he talks about the transformative power of learn to meditate.
He highlights the benefits for reducing stress, improving focus, and cultivating inner peace.
And then he suggests a really unique practice. Have a living funeral.
Now, this might sound morbid, but it's actually about appreciating life more fully.
He tells a story about an Indian Maharaja who would hold a mock funeral for himself every year as a way to reflect on his life and his legacy.
It's a reminder that our time is precious, and we should make the most of it.
And then he urges us to stop complaining and start living.
He quotes Rudyard Kipling, who said, "If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it."
It's about taking responsibility for our thoughts and actions, choosing to focus on the positive and making the most of every moment.
And he also encourages us to increase your value in the world.
He explains that the more value we add to others, the more we'll be rewarded, both financially and personally.
And then he addresses the vital role of be a better parent.
He acknowledges that it's one of the most challenging but rewarding jobs in the world.
And he encourages us to approach it with mindfulness and intention.
Then he suggests we be unorthodox.
It's about thinking for ourselves, not blindly following the crowd.
It's about challenging the status quo and finding our own unique path.
And he also advises us to carry a goal card.
He quotes Montaigne, who said, "To live a good life, we have to learn to live as we ought to."
It's about keeping our goals front and center, reminding ourselves of what we're working towards.
Then he reminds us to be more than your moods.
We're not slaves to our emotions. We can choose how we respond to them.
We can choose to cultivate joy even in the midst of challenges.
And he encourages us to savor the simple stuff.
It's about appreciating the little things, the everyday moments that make life beautiful. Then he introduces the powerful concept of create a mastermind alliance.
He references Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, which talks about the power of collaboration.
He suggests surrounding ourselves with like-minded individuals who support our growth and inspire us to reach our full potential.
And he also suggests we create a daily code of conduct.
This is about defining our values and living in alignment with them.
It's about being intentional about how we spend our time and energy.
Then he encourages us to reframe your past.
It's about choosing to see our past experiences in a new light, a light that empowers us and helps us to grow. And then he urges us to see yourself as the CEO of your life.
It's about taking ownership of our choices and our direction.
He quotes William James, who said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind."
And then he advises us to be humble.
He tells a story about meeting Muhammad Ali and how impressed he was by his humility.
It's a reminder that true greatness is often accompanied by humility.
And then he gives us some practical advice. Be selective about what you read.
Not every book is worth finishing.
Choose wisely, and don't feel obligated to finish something just because you started it.
And he also reminds us that recreation must involve recreation.
It's about choosing activities that truly rejuvenate us, that restore our energy and our spirits.
He quotes Plato, who said, "You should pray for a healthy mind and a healthy body."
Then he suggests we choose worthy opponents.
It's about challenging ourselves, pushing ourselves to be better.
We grow the most when we're competing against the best.
And then he offers a somewhat controversial suggestion: sleep less.
He shares Thomas Edison's perspective on sleep and productivity.
Of course, it's important to listen to your body and get enough rest.
But it's also worth considering whether we could be more efficient with our time.
Then he urges us to stop thinking tiny thoughts.
He quotes Benjamin Disraeli, who said, "Life is too short to be little."
He uses the analogy of amblyopia, or lazy eye, to illustrate how limiting beliefs can hold us back.
And he also advises us to don't worry about things you can't change.
He references the Serenity Prayer, which talks about accepting the things we cannot change.
He points out that we often waste a lot of energy worrying about things that are beyond our control.
And then he encourages us to learn how to walk.
He draws on Alan DeVoe's insightful observations about the mindful experience of walking.
It's about being present in the moment, paying attention to our surroundings, appreciating the simple act of moving our bodies.
Then he introduces the empowering idea to rewrite your life story.
He emphasizes that we have the power to choose how we interpret our past experiences.
He quotes Ashley Brilliant, who said, "I may not be perfect, but parts of me are excellent."
It's about focusing on the positive, on the lessons we've learned, on the strengths we've developed.
And then he suggests a simple but meaningful act. Plant a tree.
It's about connecting with nature, leaving a legacy for future generations.
And he also advises us to find your place of peace.
This could be a physical space, like a favorite park or a quiet room in your home.
Or it could be a mental space, a place you go to in your mind to find stillness and clarity.
And he reminds us to make time for yourself.
It's not selfish, it's essential.
We need time to recharge, to pursue our passions, to simply be.
He quotes L.F. Phelan, who said, "Youth is not a time of life. It is a state of mind. It is not a matter of rosy cheeks, red lips, and supple knees. It is a matter of the will, a quality of the imagination, a vigor of the emotions. It is the freshness of the deep springs of life."
Then he encourages us to take more pictures.
It's about capturing those special moments, creating memories that will last a lifetime.
And he suggests we decompress before you go home.
It's about making a conscious effort to transition from work mode to home mode.
To leave the stress of the day behind and be fully present with our loved ones.
And finally, he recommends we collect quotes that inspire you.
It's about surrounding ourselves with wisdom and motivation.
It's about having those little nuggets of inspiration at our fingertips whenever we need them.
Well, that was quite a journey, wasn't it?
We covered a lot of ground today, but hopefully you found some valuable nuggets of wisdom along the way.
We really encourage you to check out Who Will Cry When You Die by Robin Sharma. It's full of practical advice and inspiring stories.
And as you go about your day, think about which of these ideas resonated most with you.
What's one small step you can take today to move closer to the life you truly desire?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.